Hello and welcome to the Lewis Nichols Show. I'm guessing we should call this interview Wet Break Part 2 because that was the biggest talking point on the last one. Let's say hello to the lovely Balvinder Sopal. How are you?
I'm really good, thanks, Lewis. How are you?
Really good. Do you know I mentioned that there. Obviously, if anyone didn't watch the first interview, you mentioned this thing that you had at school that I'd never heard of, and I thought of something else. So it just threw me a little bit. And literally, I'm going to be honest, every person I've ever spoke to about this had that at school. So it seems like I'm
Yeah.
the person that is a bit odd, not you.
No, exactly. We need to work out where you went to school and have a chat with them over there and see if they have now implemented wet break, because actually it's raining outside right now. And I guarantee you the school that's opposite will be having wet break. They won't be coming out of playtime.
It's great to get you on because honestly, the first time you were on the show, I just fell in love with you. You were phenomenal, and ever since then, I've kept in touch with you. But the great thing is, your career has just taken off to a new level. We've got so much to talk about. So since we've last spoke, Suki has literally cemented herself, in my opinion, as one of the most formidable, popular, much needed characters on EastEnders. So what's it like for you in the last couple of years? Developing Suki and going on this journey with her?
Um, but I think it was always hard work, and I think it's just got harder. um, because it is about cementing your place within such a big kind of institution, if you like, and there are some really big characters, and you want to make your mark on the square. You don't want to be forgotten. And I think the writers, the producers, they're all sort of helping to make that happen. They're helping to cement Suki as part, and not just Suki, but the Vanessas, the whole family, as part of the square, which was always my thing. I didn't want to come on and just be the token Asian family. We wanted to be in and amongst all the business and the kind of dodgy dealings and the criminal activity, and then sort of, kind of show the human side of being a family like that, if you like. So yeah, I think it's great. It's hard work because it does mean then you've got to bring it. You can't just, well, certainly I can't just read a script tonight and go, right, yeah, I know what I'm doing. I've got to really mark out the journey, the kind of, all the motivations and where it changes and how it changes and why it changes, just so that I'm always present. And that then hopefully transpires on screen, and everybody that you're playing with as well is always present, and then they have to sort of up their game a little bit, so we're all just
Yeah.
trying to bring our best to the work, or bring our best work to the set.
I mean, you know that I am a huge fan of the show. I made no secret about that. And for me, I said to you in our first interview, there was a time I didn't fall out of love with the show, but if I missed it, it wasn't such a big thing. I'd catch up in a week or two, and that never used to be the case. But since the Panesar family have arrived, it's gone back to me for I can't miss an episode. I have to watch
Really?
it as it goes out. And I think it's just brought that excitement, a brand new dynamic. Have you had that feedback from a lot of the fans?
Yeah, but I think also, people like the families that they like. So I don't think, I think we're a part of
Yeah.
bringing, sort of audience members back on. But I think also the storylines are getting better, and more exciting. And also people that you wouldn't put in a room together are being put in rooms together.
Yeah.
And so the sort of cross kind of communication that's happening is exciting. So I think, they've shaken, certainly Chris Clenchor, I believe, has shaken up the sort of the meshing of families, which is really great. I guess when I started, we'd sort of hit COVID, right? So I think the show was impacted quite heavily because of that. And so I think now that we're kind of in recovery and coming out of it, I think there is a buzz around the show anyway. And the Panesars just happen to be a part of that. It's great that people are coming back you know, or are saying they're coming back because of the Vanessas, I think that's really humbling for me, because then I go, well, we're doing something right, and all the hard work that we're putting in isn't going to waste. But then equally, there are lots of people out there that go, oh my God, it's pandas are heavy. Can you just get rid of them? You know, so
No.
there's a, yeah, no, I've seen stuff like that as well. But that's fine, because we're not, you know, we're not everybody's cup of tea, but we are someone's, and that's okay. There's room for everybody. That's how I see it. So
Oh, they're my cup of tea, they're my coffee, they're my everything. We can't have them go anywhere. But do you know what I love?
brilliant.
Do you know what I love about EastEnders at the moment is it got to a stage when somebody was returning, they would announce it, and it just took away that, because we all love to not know that someone was coming back. And I mean, they absolutely smashed it last week with the return of Keanu. We saw Adam Woodyatt back as Ian. And I've got to say, I'm sure, you know, I know that you loved the show prior to being on it. And to watch the funeral of Dot Cotton, obviously the late June Brown, was
Oh
just
yeah.
one of the most emotional pieces of TV I've seen. Just the shots, it just had a completely different feel. What did you
Yeah.
think, having watched it?
Well, I think we all felt like we were mourning somebody that was close to us, you know, because we'd grown up watching the show, and were very fond of characters like Dot Cotton. And so, and also June Brown, what an extraordinary actress. I never actually crossed paths with her, because just as I was joining, she'd left the show. Um, and so I think when you are that connected to a show or a character, that's the house phone. Can you hear it going?
No.
It doesn't stop here. It's like it doesn't stop. It's like revolving doors. Um, you know, so I think I think a nation joined in to mourn a really brilliantly crafted character. Like, we felt like she was our own, and it was shot beautifully. And then also you felt like you were part of the family, because, you know, Sonia, the way she sort of handled it and was the forefront
Yeah.
of the proceedings, if you like. But then when they're in the chapel, you know, and Sonia's not been able to write the eulogy, and everybody comes up and says, well, Dot was this and Dot was that, and she always had it, you know. And I just thought, oh my God, like, she belonged to every person in that square,
Yeah.
and then outside of the square, if you know what I mean. So yeah, it was very moving, it was very beautiful. And yeah, lots of tears.
I mean, I can see Sonia becoming the kind of new Dot of the square. You know,
Yeah.
very forgiving, very kind, sees the best in everybody. And I think that's such a nice full circle moment. And it must be for
Yeah.
Natalie as well to have worked so close with June for all these years, and now kind of get to mirror the character almost, and become that legend of the square.
Yeah, that voice of reason, you
Yeah.
know, that everybody goes to. And, you know, and she's always kind of offering nuggets of advice. And also how she sort of, I watched the Janine and Mick episode where Janine, I think she lies about being pregnant, or lies about going to
Scan.
the scan.
Yeah.
Excuse me. And you know, she goes, I think you've got I think you've got to tell Mick something. And Mick's like, tell me what? And then she sort of covers for Janine. And I was like, I wouldn't have done that. I'd have exposed her straight away. But, you know, just the kind of morality of the character of Sonia absolutely emulates what Dot stood for, you know, the goodness in everybody, and sort of the love and protection of people, because there are reasons for why people do what they do. And I think Sonia sees that. She's, you know, she's a really beautiful character, actually.
Well, talking of characters, obviously, I've got to go back to Suki, because when we first did an interview, she was very tough. I even spoke about that hard face expression that we'd always see from Suki after delivering a line. But more recently, we've seen a much more vulnerable side, an emotional side, almost scared, trapped, doesn't know, you know, who she is, and doesn't know where to go. And it as a fan, it's so difficult, because when you have a villain on the show, you start to, you know, dislike them, and that's what a villain does. But with Suki, you've started to feel sorry for her. You started to want to help her. You started to really get behind and want to shout at the TV, say, be you, be happy. Now,
Be
it's
you.
such a contrast for a fan to deal with. I mean, what's it like for you as an actor to have to do that?
Yeah, so I was initially not very keen. I was like, no, she can't, you know, you can't let go of her edge, because that's what makes Suki Suki. But I think with all characters like that, there is a deeper, you know, there is something deeper that gnaws away at them. And I think when you get to that is when you get to the essence of the character. So we're not wholly good, and we're not wholly bad, you know, where we've got a mixture of everything. And I just think now is the time for Suki to really address what has been going on in her life, from the minute she chose to marry Nish, or you know, her relationship, her marriage to Nish, and then having children, and sort of realizing, you know, what the sort of choices that she's made that has led her to where she is. And I think that's it, isn't it? We sort of look back and go, God, I wish I never did it like that, or I wish I'd taken that path, or I wish I'd chosen this person over that person, you know, spent so many years wasting my time on this. I think this is the sort of the start of the breakdown for Suki, where she sort of reflects on how some of the decisions she made were not necessarily bad, but that she had to make them in that moment. And the consequences are playing out for her. So yeah, I'm still trying to retain some of that kind of, you know, that grit and that hardness. But it's hard when someone's chipping away at you to always remain, you know, kind of strong and tough, because they make you see things inside you, that you have to address. I don't know if that made any sense.
Yeah, no, it does. And you know, from recent episodes, I really feel EastEnders should look into doing a special flashback episode with Suki and when Nish originally went to prison, because you feel like there's so much you don't know, but you would love to know, and it would just give you more of an idea of the character. So I think a flashback episode would be incredible for the.
I think so, yeah.
The
Well, we were
figure.
sort of talking about that because they did the Mitchell flashback, didn't they?
Yeah,
And I thought it was excellent. And it just, like you say, it just puts into place things that you hadn't, you know, necessarily worked out beforehand, or, you know, it just explains why character is the way they are. And then the connections, and you begin to understand them a little bit more. And I think a flashback episode would be great for, you know, maybe all the families on the show. Like we could get a little bit more insight, because the show travels at the speed of, you know, 100 miles per hour, so you don't always get to sit in with somebody's story past what's happening. Do you know what I mean? So you don't
yeah.
get to see the backstory. You just sort of, you're living in the present a lot of the time. So yeah, I think something like that would be really nice to uncover and reveal, you know, what these dynamics have been, and how they've become that way, I think.
Well, we've got to talk about Sue Keeve, because it's a love
Oh.
story. I am just all for this, and I never saw it coming, because the first time with Honey, it was I mean, I was just like, because of Suki's reaction, of course, to her daughter. It was just, you never saw it coming. But I mean, there's something about Suki and Eve that just feels right. The way you play the partnership together is incredible, because it's like Eve is the only person that knows the real Suki. She gets Suki, and you just wouldn't have expected that to happen. When they put the storyline to you originally, what were your thoughts? Did you feel like, I think this is a bit of a risk, because people like the fact that Suki's more tough, more hard-faced, or were you all for the story originally?
No, I was all for the story, actually. I was just scared that I might not be able to do it justice. That's, you know, as an actor, that's the main thing. And also, because I don't come from the LGBT community, right? So I was like, can I do this justice? Can I make this feel truthful enough for people, and represent in a way that speaks to people's hearts, which is what any actor wants to do. So I was really scared by it, actually. But I also knew that there is a place for this kind of story, you know, a South Asian woman in her older years, you know, kind of finding a connection with a white woman, again, you know, slightly older. And I think that's what makes this story really, really interesting, is because we're not looking at teenagers. We're not looking at children, or sort of young adults, you know, or people in their mid-20s. These are women in their, you know, late 40s, early 50s, who have lived life the way they have thought was right, and then all of a sudden this connection comes, and it just shakes the whole ground that they've built their lives on. Certainly for Suki, I think Eve is a lot more comfortable and confident in her skin, and she knows who she is, and I think that complements, you know, they complement each other really nicely. And also Eve is also quite alpha, and I think Suki likes that, you know. But also she has a softer, tender side to her, which she also really likes. But I think more importantly, it's the soul to soul connection. They're just drawn to each other. They are compelled towards each other because there is something unspoken that happens when the two of them are in the room together. And it's essentially a love story. And sometimes you can't explain why you love someone, right?
Yeah.
And we wanted the slow burn because they'd written some scenes that were, you know, sort of ripping each other's clothes off and I was like, I don't want to play that because I don't think it's interesting. And secondly, where do you go after that? You know, it sort of loses its importance as a relationship because then it just becomes about the sex. And what we both wanted was for it to be about the connection that these two human beings have. Heather was brilliant, and my go-to woman for any of the language around the LGBTQ community. So when the first kiss happened, Suki pushes Eve up against the fridge. I don't know if you saw that one.
Yeah.
But so Suki grabbed hold of Eve's neck and pushed her up, and I was like, does that look a bit abusery or a bit kind of, you know, forceful? Like, does it look sort of, you know, menacing or whatever? And Heather was like, no, because it's two women. If it was a man and a woman, it may look a little bit like, oh,
Yeah.
one is controlling the other, but because it's two women, they're both equals in society. I think, you know, men and women should be equal, but that's a whole new ball game, and that'll take a lifetime to sort out. But in this relationship, they're both equal. The power shifts every now and again, but do you know what I mean? So she was like, so it's fine. In lesbian language, it's bang on hot. So I was like, great, okay, we'll do that. You know, and people really responded really well to that. Yeah, and so every time you know, we're trying to work out connection rather than sex, if that makes sense,
And it
which I
comes
think is
across like,
much more. Sorry.
as I say, it comes across like that, and you've done the story so much justice because I'm on the, you know, all the social media groups and the reaction, and I think the fact that Heather is such a pioneer as well to the community. She
Yeah,
really is. She's people. It's about her music connects to people. If people don't know that Heather is an incredible musician, but I think the two of you have just done the story justice, and I know for you it's something that it was new to you to explore as an actor.
yeah.
It's a whole new community to try and do justice, and you really have. So you should be incredibly proud because it's
Thank
another
you.
tick off the
Thanks.
list of the
Yeah.
achievements.
But I don't think it would have happened without somebody like Heather. She's, you know, we talk a lot about the scenes and what we want to achieve from them and what the words mean and the language and all of that sort of stuff. So I think it's really important when you have somebody who can advise and guide and also support, you know, what you bring. It's really, I mean, it just then shows that it works. So yeah, I'm very blessed, very lucky to have somebody like Heather actually, and everybody that we're working with. So yeah, very lucky.
Do you know, I don't know why that cupcake behind you is just, I love it. I mean, look at it, it's so much in the interview. Like the massive
Sorry,
cupcake on the shelf.
it's actually oh my God, can you believe this? There's £20 note in it. It's a money box, but I'd lost the bottom.
As if
Happy
you've just
days.
found £20 on air. That's incredible. You
I'm
always
gonna
bring a
buy my
moment that gets talked about, and I think the cupcake £20 is it.
That's so funny. Oh,
Oh,
when did I put that there? No, I've had that for years, you know. I've had it for years. I used to have a mini what's it called? A mini money box, like in the shape of a mini. And I said to my dad, I said, Dad, it's when I lived in Huddersfield. I said, Dad, I bought a mini. He went, did you? I said, yeah. He said, how much? I said, £5. He went, you bought a mini for £5, Lee? I went, yeah, because what condition is it in? I went, oh, it's brilliant. What do you mean it's brilliant? It's £5. I went, yeah, and I can store loads of money in it. And he was like, what are you talking about? And then I showed him it was a little yellow mini like money box. And he was like, you're silly.
Do you know, just when we all thought as fans we're getting a happy ever after with Suki and Eve, I mean, he's fantastic addition to the show, but I was so annoyed for the first week when, of course, your husband, Nish, arrived on the square because it just changed everything. And suddenly when Suki, it felt like she had the strength to be her,
Mm.
he just came and completely and wiped it out. And he seems very dark as a character. You just know as a fan, there's so much more coming. Like, and it's like he's got this hold over Suki where she's almost frightened. Is how it comes across to me. You know, this lady that we see that's formidable, strong, suddenly a little bit timid. What was it
Mm.
like for you to work? You know, to have Nish come on the show because it changed everything.
Yeah, it did change everything, and I think that's brilliant because it makes for really exciting storytelling. Because like you say, you know, people are screaming at the telly going, "What are you doing?"
Yeah.
Um, Firstly, Naveen Chaudhary is an amazing actor, and somebody that I grew up watching, you know, teachers, and we were just like, "Oh God, Naveen's going to be," and then, you know, he's just brilliant. He's great to work against, or opposite, sorry. And what I think that means is that there's big things to come for Suki, Eve, and Nish, you know. I love also the way that Eve is kind of working her way into the sort of relationship between Suki and Nish. Um, but I think for Suki, the stakes are really high. It's a really dangerous game. Suki knows what Nish is capable of, and she doesn't just have Eve to lose, she has her children to lose. She's already lost two.
Mm.
So she's trying to do as much damage control and hold on to the things that she absolutely loves, as close as she can. And so it means playing the long game. You know, how that manifests itself, I don't know. But she can't, you know, she's got responsibilities because her responsibility is not just to herself, her responsibility is to the people that she loves. If she just goes, right, yep, see you later, Nish, I'm going to set up a life here, anything can
Yeah.
happen.
Um, just want to quickly go on to you're talking obviously about Nish. There was a scene between him and Eve which just it was so confusing. It was one of those moments where you're like, wow, this is powerful because he is obviously aware there's something not quite right between Suki and Eve. And he almost was playing Eve a little bit. You know, he was saying, make sure you look after my wife when I'm away. You know, I think she's vulnerable. I think she needs you. He was almost kind of setting something up to almost catch them out. And it was just that feeling of, wow, this man is smart. You know,
Mm.
he is aware of everything. And with a character like that, you just know that there's exciting things to come because he's now almost in charge of the whole thing. You know, nothing gets past him. He sees everything.
Yeah, which again creates the danger, right? Because
Yeah.
Suki knows that he's that kind of character. So he's got his eyes on everything. So any inkling, any sense of, you know, any conviction for him, it is game over, I think. And I don't know what that looks like, but it means that it all explodes and it's, you know, it's bad news for everyone involved. But I like that as well, because also, you know, it's what the audience read into it. He might have meant it innocently, who knows, right?
Yeah.
But as we know, with a character like Nish, it 100% won't have been. But I think that's what's really beautiful about the way we're all playing our cards. We say one thing but mean another, and look, you know, give a look that
Yeah.
says something else. So it's threefold. I bloody love it.
Do you know what I love is anyone that has you on social media will know that as an on-screen family, you're close off-screen as well. I mean, we often see
Mm.
you at the theatre with some of your cast friends or going out
Yeah,
for food, and it's just so nice because the family that we've grown to love on TV, we're seeing that is almost like a real family off-screen as well.
yeah, no, I love spending time with them. I think we all love spending time with each other because we get each other. I mean, we do, you know, there is obviously there's the whole banter and stuff like that. You know, poor little Shiv gets it all. Kill me for saying it. But it's so lovely. But he's like, he's the little baby of the family and we love him. You know, and then yeah, we've got a really good off-screen chemistry and friendship as well. And it's great to spend time with those people. Um, because then it also helps when you're on set as
Yeah.
well, you know, to do what you need to do. um yeah, and I think we just all love eating food. We love going to, you know,
Like,
eating.
you're always
Got
out
something in common.
eating.
We're always out eating.
Do,
Big Indian families.
Yeah, I know you might not, you probably won't be able to answer this, because I know that obviously you've got to keep storylines very tight, but just I'm a massive fan of Kira and I was devastated that he's gone from the square. Will we ever see him return, or is it something that you're not allowed to speak about?
Um, the door has been left open. Like, he's not dead. They didn't kill the
Yeah.
character off. So who knows what the future holds, you know? Who knows? The character is still alive, so, unless he dies off
Fingers
prison.
crossed. Um, one thing I do want to talk about is since playing the role of Suki, you have been nominated for various awards and getting a recognition you really do deserve as an actor. But we've got to talk about the Asian Media Awards because you won the Best TV Character. And
I know.
just to see you on social media be so happy to receive that award, it's almost like you're being finally recognized for every piece of effort that you put in to portraying one of the best characters on TV. So what was that like for you to get that recognition?
Yeah, it was incredible actually. For a number of reasons. One, I didn't think I was going to get it. Two, when we went there to the event, we were sat at the front and all the winners were coming from the back. So I was like, oh, it's not going to happen to me then, so that's all right. But then when my name was called, I just thought, wow, like, because I think there's always a worry when you're portraying, sort of characters that, how do I put this? I was worried about a backlash from the community, from my own community. I thought, they're going to be, people don't like seeing things sometimes,
Yeah, of course.
and so I was really worried that people would say stuff, or there would be a whole load of abuse online and things like that. But actually, I've got to give my community a lot more credit than what I do, because they embraced it. They were like, Suki's a character we really enjoy. We think she's exciting, she's interesting, she's dynamic and different, with all of her flaws, and so for me that was validation from the Asian community, and they're often the ones that you want to, not please, but sort of go, this is what, because I think also going into the acting industry, is always looked upon not very favorably, because it's like where's the career going to get you, and is it sustainable, and all that kind of stuff. So I don't think they necessarily appreciate the hard work, but they do, and that's the thing. So it was my own prejudice against my own community. So yeah, and I think I went to the temple yesterday, the Gurdwara. We had a little program, and I had cousins there who I hadn't seen for like 10 years. It was their event, and one of my cousins said to me, when you got into the job, I was like, what the hell, like, why would you even bother? He said, but you've really made your mark on, like, you've really made your career happen, which I'm so proud of. He said representation is one thing, he said, but when it's one of your own family members doing it, that is like, you've made us so proud. And this is somebody that doesn't say stuff like that,
Yeah.
all of their children are pharmacists, because they have a legacy of pharmacy in their family, so they're all doctors and medics and all that kind of stuff, and pharmacists. And I just thought, oh god, wow, that's praise and a half, so yeah. So it meant a whole lot to me, actually, because I just thought that they're recognizing that, we can be front and center, and be seen in all our glory, and they love it. So more, please.
Do you know, I think you're going to get a lot more because, the way it's going, like I mean it when I say that the show has become unmissable again. And I personally, I know there's so many families on the square that make the show what it is, but for me, it's the arrival of the Panda Stars that have just made it unmissable because you've just brought, and I think, like you said, you're involved with so many families. I mean, whether it's the
Yeah.
Mitchells, whether it's the Slaters, you're just in the center with around these legendary families, and it's just made it incredible again. So as a fan, thank you for going out there and doing what you do every show.
Oh no, thank you for always your lovely comments and feedback, Lewis. It's really important that we get that. And I think, because it makes us realize that we're doing it right, and if we're not, then what do we need to do to change it? So, and of course the opportunity is there for us to do that. So yeah, we're really blessed with having people like you, and then people like, the executive producers who just want to see it work. And great actors, and yeah, brilliant communities, both sides, you know,
Yeah.
and in between, that support the work. So we're really, yeah, we're really blessed. So thank you.
Thank you. The very last question: do you count your own duff duffs? Like, have you got a tally of how many
Oh
duff duffs you
no,
do?
no,
I
no, I
don't
don't.
know.
No, maybe I should. Maybe I
Because
should.
I think Suki could end up getting a record. So it might be worth knowing
No,
how many you've got already, and then just keeping a list over the years.
I think I 1 week, I think there was like 3 duffs on Suki, and I was like, wow, like, you know, great for me, but I think the audience would be like, oh my god, not another one.
No, it's we love a
um,
duff duff, and I think
yeah,
if you can get a record for that, that will be an
or I might have to look
outstanding
into that. I'll report back. I'm taking my
Balvinder,
wet break.
thank you so much for coming on the show. I really appreciate it. You've now got £20. You can go out and get yourself something nice.
Treat yourself, hey.
No, thank you so much for coming on the show. I know you're really busy at the moment, especially with filming. So thanks for taking the time out and joining us on the special.
Thank you so much, Lewis. It's lovely to be back, and yeah, I'll come back whenever I can.
Thank you.
See you. Take care.